So today clearly didn't go as I planned. Unfortunately, the weather is not looking the best right now. What I was gonna do today was just get some B-roll shots with me skating around the area that I live in, but I just don't see it happening. And because 2-3 days ago, I actually shot a video in my room and sitting and then talking about a topic. I think I'm just gonna join this B-roll shot, whatever I've taken today, with that other video and then just conjoin them together. I just don't think I'll be able to get any good shots anymore. It's just raining and I'm just camping under a tree, so it's not really the best. The topic that I'll be talking about is 3 podcasts that I'm currently listening to. I think podcasts are an excellent way to learn about so many things happening around the world. Now, there are 3 different kinds of learners. There's kinesthetic learners, people that learn with their hands and they're really good with arts and craft, or just building things. They're really good with that and that's how they learn. There's auditorial learners, obviously people that hear and learn, something that I've always haven't been. And there's finally visual learners, something that I've always been. Number 1 is philosophize this. Imagine if I told you if there was this guy who had really clear-cut examples, analogies, a comedic aspect, and very articulate in how he projects his ideas and beliefs, which all revolve and connect to the idea of philosophy. Well, luckily there is a guy, Stephen West. His podcast is called Philosophize This, and it's prevalent in Apple Music and Spotify. And I've been listening to him for at least 3 months now. He talks about Eastern and Western philosophy that has, I guess, been prevalent around the world for centuries now. Eastern philosophy such as Confucianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, and so much more. I know some of them are also religion, but the philosophies that can be extracted from those religions. Then he also talks about Western philosophy, such as Stoicism, Epicureanism, and Existentialism. These are a few things that he talks about, but it's not even the fact that he touches on all these different aspects of philosophies. His podcasts are so heavily detailed. Some can get complicated at times, but if you are actually willing to learn on how to improve your life, your external life and your internal life, it's probably the best podcast I have found so far. And there are so many podcasts out there on philosophy. It really has made me think about what really matters in life and what doesn't. I highly recommend this podcast. My 40-minute drive to work feels like 10 minutes every time I put on Philosophize This. Now, it's one of those things where, you do kind of have to pay attention when listening to his podcasts. The problem with me and podcasts is that I always have to be doing something secondary while listening to a podcast. And most of the time that is the act of driving, because I do drive a lot a week. I always find it useful to put these kind of podcasts on where I am driving and focusing on the road, hopefully, and not getting into an accident, but at the same time, listening to very in-depth analysis of great thinkers that have lived throughout time. I'm even guilty of buying one of his mugs that actually says Philosophize This. I hope you can see it. Let me just quickly zoom in. There you go. And it's a really nice design. I usually don't buy these kind of merch things, but I really wanted to support his channel and what he stands for and the content that he brings, because it is quite intricate the way he delivers it. Philosophy can be quite mundane and just dry. And there's a lot of pop philosophy out there where people think that they can philosophize, but they just really can't, and they just like reading up quotes and just, quoting them so they can look smarter. I've been guilty of that in the past. Now actually diving into the world of philosophy and learning about so many different ways of thinking has just opened my mind into so many different aspects in my life. Before I move on, a new quote that I recently learned from him was when he talks about Socrates' philosophy in life. When Socrates quotes, "An unexamined life is not worth living." And that's something just I always stand for, about being aware, base strengths and your weaknesses, how you act when you are around some people, whether you're adapting a certain persona. It all just relates back to examining your life and just having that key of being aware. Up next would be Andrew Huberman's podcast. Now, he is an American neuroscientist and an associate professor in the Department of Neurobiology at the Stanford University School of Medicine, and he has made numerous contributions to brain development. I've just been diving into all of his different topics and the things that he talks about. Not only does he give scientific, empirical evidence and knowledge, which is really hard to get these days, especially like peer-reviewed articles. He's clearly passionate about it, and he does his own research and he has his own lab and all that. That's amazing. For someone who hasn't really cared about neuroscience that much, that didn't really attract me to go to him and explore his world. What I really found interesting that he touches on topics such as sleep, strength, anxiety, depression, motivation, goal setting, the chemical imbalances that occurs in our brain, and many more things. I mean, he just goes on and on about all these crazy topics, and he just backs it up with all this amazing evidence that I never even knew about. And I've just learned so much about my own body and how the human body works. I just find it so fascinating. You know, he's got all these guests that he eventually, I guess, interviews and has two-way conversations with, so it's not just one-sided with people that actually sometimes might not agree with some things that he's saying. So that's also amazing. I guess he even says that in the start of his video, his main goal, or one of his main goals, is to just provide free information to the world to better improve everyone's lives. And I just respect that a lot. Obviously, you know, he's making money in his own way and he's monetizing his content, but the fact that he's just delivering this hours and hours of content on YouTube just for free, just him sitting there, just like how I am sitting there, but just articulating himself for hours and hours and showing all this research. I've always kind of respected that. I have learned so many things from his different episodes, but one thing that I recently learned is something called a physiological sigh. So to practice a physiological sigh, you have to inhale one big inhale, and then before you release to exhale, you do a quick inhale again, and then you exhale. Now you do that pattern of behavior maybe 2, maximum 3 times. 2 inhale and 1 exhale 3 different times, just to get that physiological sigh properly activated. Now I'm not gonna go into the chemical and the scientific aspects of it. You know, I don't even fully remember what he actually said. I need to actually go back and watch the video properly again. It's something that we usually do when we're sleeping. We do this inhale, exhale without consciously actually knowing it. It was discovered in the 1950s, and we also do it when we get really claustrophobic. So it's something to do with the carbon dioxide buildup and the way you release it that instantly just calms you down. And I have just been amazed since I started doing this, where if I'm ever stressed or anxious or something like that, I'll do these 3 sets of physiological sighs in that moment, and it just really alleviates my anxiety or stress, and it just calms me down. This is how you do it. But I will also link the video down below to actually go to that one specific video where he actually talks about physiological sighs. So 2 inhales, exhale, inhale from the nose, exhale from the mouth. There you go. So that first inhale was really long. The second inhale, you're quickly creeping one in, and then you're exhaling it finally. And wow, I can't even explain how it feels. You know, the more you do it, and you will realize some kind of effect, and I've just been doing it a lot. Finally, the last podcast that I want to talk about, which I'm sure so many people are familiar with, is the Joe Rogan Experience. Now, I wanted to put a unique podcast rather than something so generic, because everyone knows Joe Rogan, or most of the people that do podcasts or like podcasts will know Joe Rogan, even if you don't like the guy. But you know, these are the 3 podcasts that I'm listening to. I didn't want to just add a podcast just for the sake of adding a podcast, because, you know, I'm not really listening to them. Joe Rogan is someone who basically has revolutionized the world of podcasts. You know, you have celebrities, comedians, YouTubers, vloggers, influencers just doing podcasts these days. And even if you're not good at it and you're not talented, if you have a really big following, people will just watch your podcast. It just amazes me, you know, like, I know podcasts were always a thing, and I remember being in year 8, year 9 and having the Apple store, the Apple app on your iPhone of podcasts. No one ever talked about podcasts, but I swear it had something to do with the I guess, the blowing up of Joe Rogan Experience and the fame and the reputation it has. So I've always respected Joe Rogan for that, and that's a very subjective reason as to why I listen to his podcasts. But objectively, he is one of the most entertaining hosts. He's argumentative when he needs to be, and he actually pulls people up. He will always, I guess, most of the time, argue in what he really believes, and I really like that. You know, he's a good debater, he's funny, and I guess also what I've really appreciated about Joe Rogan is he's always had this underlying message of being disciplined. Every time I listen to Joe Rogan, I want to go to the gym. It's just this activation that happens in me where I just feel like, okay, now I'm gonna hit the sauna, now I'm gonna take this supplement, now I'm gonna have a really good workout. And I really have a lot of respect for him. You know, there are some things I might not agree, or probably haven't agreed with some things that he probably preaches. But overall, besides the fact that he's revolutionized the world of podcasts, objectively, he's just a great host. And he just has this ability to just talk and absorb knowledge. He's like a sponge, and he's always reading and listening to podcasts and then coming prepared. And I just love it. He can always keep the conversation going. There's never an awkward moment, and I just appreciate, I just really respect that. I know I've said that a lot, but I really do. He interviews an array of guests on an array of topics, which is probably the reason why I guess I never really listened to his podcasts like from the start to the finish, like I do with Philosophize This or Andrew Huberman's podcasts. The main reason would be is probably he just posts so much content and it can get quite overwhelming. So I can't really keep up with everything he posts. But yeah, these are the 3 podcasters that I listen to. I really, really recommend. You know, most likely you've probably seen Joe Rogan or you've probably heard him. But if you haven't heard the first 2, I highly recommend that you do. These have changed my life. I'm constantly learning so much about the mind, the body, the world, the people around me, suffering, anxiety, so many different topics. I know I haven't uploaded for, what's the date today? Yep, so I haven't uploaded for like 4 weeks, maybe a little bit more. I've just been really busy with life, but I'm on school holidays now from my job, so I'm really excited to just keep making videos, and I promise I'll be more consistent with it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you have any feedback on how I can improve my videos, please post it. I won't get offended, I promise. I have philosophized this, so I'm just joking. Yeah, let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for listening as well. And let me know if you have listened to these podcasters or you will in the future. Thanks, guys.